Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. With Arab international participation, Mazoon International Child Theatre is opened in the Wilaya of Barka. Moscow denies an alleged deal between the US and Russia over the fate of President Assad as unfounded. And Seoul says that North Korea has fired a short-range missile into the sea and tried to jam GPS navigation signals in South Korea. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. The opening of Mazoon International Festival for Child Theatre was celebrated in the Wilaya of Barka among wide Arab and international participation. It came under the theme Patriotism and Belonging. The local and the Arab International Theatre teams during the days of the festival will present various artistic shows and performances that highlight the good values of patriotism, love for the country and responsibility. The event will also include a number of competitions as well as analysis session in which the critics and evaluation committees will express their opinion about the shows presented by children. The opening ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Nasser Al-Harasi, Chairman of the Public Authority for Radio and Television. The Ministry of Health held a ceremony for the graduation of new batch of Health Sciences Institute in the Governorate of Muscat. During the ceremony, certificates were distributed to the graduates and the excelled students. This batch of graduates are from Oman Nursing Institute, Oman Specialized Nursing Institute, Oman Assistant Pharmacy Institute, and Oman Health Information Management Institute. His Excellency Saeed bin Hamad Al-Rubai, Secretary General of Education Council, presided over the graduation ceremony. The graduation ceremony included graduates' speeches who expressed their happiness for graduation after hard work and efforts they exerted during the years of study. Conclusion of the preparatory meeting to set up national multi-sectoral strategy on autism spectrum, chaired by His Excellency the Minister of Health, was held today at the Ministry of Health. More details in the following report by Abdullah bin Ahmed Al-Rubai.
In the framework of seeking to boost community healthcare services in the Sultanate, the second day of preparatory meeting to develop the national multi-sectoral strategy of autism, chaired by His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, was held today in the presence of their officials from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Development and other governmental bodies, including Sultan Qaboos University Hospital, where Professor Eric Fambon, Professor of Psychiatry and Director of Autism Research, Oregon Health Science University, USA, who has been tasked to set up the national multi-sectorial strategy on autism spectrum, as well as to add the autism spectrum disorders with the primary healthcare services package. He presented the strategy for establishing an autism center.
This meeting today is important for setting up an agenda for Oman to develop a better set of coordinated services for children with autism and their families. There are already some services which exist, particularly to diagnose them when they are young. There is a good clinic at the Sultan Qaboos University, but we need more diagnostic capacity. The prevalence of autism is not exactly known today for Oman, but we estimate that there are several thousands of children between the age of 1 and 15.
One of the recommendations is to develop a national committee aiming to have a multi-sectorial team, which include Minister of Social Development, Minister of Education and Minister of Health, each with their specific role, where the Minister of Health will have a strategy of early detection, diagnosis and intervention. Social Development to have rehabilitation center. Minister of Education to have a strategy of including these kids to schools with their other colleagues.
The National Strategy for Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder was an idea from the Ministry of Health, and it has really a lot of impact in the future, as we're going to develop a clear vision and mission regarding services related to the medical health. In addition to this, we are also planning to get also a major collaboration between the different sectors that are concerned about children with autism spectrum disorders.
It's worth mentioning that autism, a condition present from early childhood, characterized by difficulty in communicating and forming relationships with other people, and in using language and abstract concept. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television.
Now for international news, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said today that leaks on alleged deal between the United States and Russia over the fate of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad were unfounded. According to media, London-based Arabic newspaper recently reported that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had told leaders in several Arab countries that Moscow and Washington had reached an understanding on Assad's departure. Lavrov stressed that the fate of Assad was down to the Syrian people to determine. He said the dirty leaks showed on inability on the sides of the United States to carry out the resolution of the Security Council and to give the Syrian nation their sovereign right. The death toll from airstrikes in the Deir al-Safir district southeast of Damascus has risen to 33, mostly women and children. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group said the strikes yesterday were carried out by Syrian aircraft, came despite a month-long cessation of hostilities in Syria between government forces and the opponents, excluding Daesh and Al-Qaeda's Nusra Front. Airstrikes continued in the area today. The area is controlled by different factions, including rebel forces covered by the truce as well as Al-Nusra Front. Iraq's counter-terrorism forces, backed by army troops and US-led coalition, airstrikes advanced towards the western town of Hit in an attempt to dislodge Daesh militants. A senior officer from the counter-terrorism forces, the elite US-trained units which led the recapture of nearby Ramadi 3 months ago, said his troops were 1 kilometer from the town center, 130 kilometers west of the capital, Baghdad. 25 Daesh elements were killed and around 20 were injured in airstrikes east of the city of Ramadi. The recapture of Hit, strategically located in the Euphrates River near Ain Assad airbase, where several hundred US forces are training Iraqi army troops, would push Daesh farther west towards the Syrian border, cutting a connection to the northern town of Samarra and leaving Fallujah their only stronghold near the capital. North Korea fired a short-range missile into the sea and tried to jam GPS navigational signals in South Korea today. Seoul officials said hours after US, South Korean and Japanese leaders pledged to work closer together to prevent North Korea from advancing its nuclear and missile programs. Officials said the attempt to jam GPS signals, which began yesterday, did not cause any major disruptions of South Korean military, aviation and sea transport and telecommunication system. However, more than 130 fishing boats reported problems with their navigation systems, and some were forced to return to their ports. South Korea has blamed North Korea for several previous jamming attempts. This week's jamming signals are the first since 2012, according to South Korea's science ministry. North Korean state media had no immediate comment. North Korea also fired a surface-to-air missile off its east coast today, 3 days after it launched a projectile that hit land in its northeast. Still to come in the news bulletin. Some nations practice April Fool on the first day of April every year using their own local pranks. That's coming up later. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Back in the Sultanate, Abbad bin Bashir School for Basic Education in the Wilayat of Ibri in the Governorate of Lahira organized an open day to introduce the students' activities to the parents as well as communicate with the society institutions. The event included various activities such as traditional village, a lecture on the risk of drugs, in addition to a lecture on the danger of electricity accidents. The teachers and the students expressed that such events improve the students' talents and skills, as well as give the school administration the opportunity to meet with the students' parents. Suq al-Jum'ah, or Friday market in the Wilayah of Sohar in the Governorate of North Batna with its various products is considered a destination for many citizens from inside and outside the Governorate to buy products that may not be available in the modern commercial centers. This type of traditional markets blend historical aspects with the modern ones, that they are considered gathering places for customers and visitors. The market itself is located near the center of the Wilayah, the historical castle and seaside road. It witnessed an active movement during both morning and evening periods, while including necessary tools, items and commodities for citizens to buy. The quantity of water reserved in As-Sarain Dam in the Governorate of Muscat reached around 2 million cubic meters to enhance the level of underground water for the villages in both the Wilayat of Al-Amarat and Quriyat. The wadi flow combined with the falages in the area are considered the main reason for the villagers to practice agriculture. The villages in the area are surrounded by greenery, especially palm trees, as well as beautiful and calm atmosphere. On other news, Zaha Hadid, the world's most famous female architect, died yesterday at the age of 65 in Miami hospital. She had contracted bronchitis earlier this week and had a heart attack while being treated. Iraq-British Hadid was best known for her designs of the Guangzhou Opera House in China and the Aquatic Center used in the 2012 London Olympics. Hadid's work fused her knowledge of mathematics and embrace of computer technology with soaring imagination and ambition. Uncompleted works include one of the stadiums for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar and the new Iraqi Parliament building in Baghdad. Hadid twice won Britain's Sterling Prize for Architecture and in 2004 became the first woman to win the Pritzker Prize, known as the Nobel Prize of Architecture. On the April Fool news, Japanese car maker Nissan decided to have some fun with its brand name today, releasing a video in which its name gets mixed up with companies with similar names. In the video, a Nissan staff member playing the role of a news anchor with an obviously fake mustache reports on a flying object created by Nissan and noodle maker Nissin that makes up an unexpected landing at the headquarters of conglomerate Nissan. The flying object, which looks like a giant instant noodle ball, is called Uso. Uso in Japanese means a lie in English. That's a clue that the entire production is an April Fool's Day joke. Also, English language website The Beijinger claimed that Facebook boss Mark Zuckerberg had accepted a green card from China's communist government and was moving to the capital after a high-profile visit to Beijing last month. In France, La Tribune reported that taxi firm Uber was to launch a new environmentally friendly service in which the passenger is carried on the driver's backseat in a basket. Britain's Thames Valley Police launched a recruitment video for its new feline division set up to harness cats' curiosity and gift of 9 lives to fight crime. Now for the general weather forecast, partly cloudy skies will prevail over the most governorates of the Sultanate with chances of scattered rainfalls, occasionally thunderous in the governorates of Musandam and Brahmi and Hajar Mountains and nearby seas. Winds will be southeasterly light to moderate, occasionally active over the coastal areas of Arabian Sea, and the rest of the Sultanate will be northwesterly moderate, occasionally active. Seas will be moderate to rough along the Sea of Oman and Musandam with a maximum wave height between 2 to 3 meters. Rest of the coast to be moderate with maximum wave height of 1.75 meters. This is the Sultan of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. With Arab and international participation, Mazun International Child Theatre is opened in the Wilaya of Barka. Moscow denies an alleged deal between the US and Russia over the fate of President Assad as unfounded. And Seoul says that North Korea has fired a short-range missile into the sea and tried to jam GPS navigation signals in South Korea. And with that comes the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here in the newsroom and the studios, have a good weekend. Good night.